Thanks to Card Market for sponsoring this video. Hi, I'm Mars from StrataGames, and today I'm joined by Jam Trafaz, who is also better known as True-Name-Nemesis on MTGO, who made top 8 at the most recent Paupergeddon, playing Golgari Food Pestilence. And so I wanted to get him here to do an interview and just tell us a little bit more about this deck. It's a relatively new deck. There's a lot of complexities to it. And I figured who better to talk to the person who's been playing it pretty religiously for several months and obviously did really well with it at a local tournament. So how you doing, John?
Hello, I'm fine. I'm doing well. Back from the Paupergeddon.
Perfect. First, just go ahead and give us a brief overview of your experience with Magic as a whole, and also when you started playing Pauper.
Okay. So I've been playing Magic since I was 11. I've tried a lot of formats with mixed results, but when I discovered the Pauper, everything changed. You could say I really start playing the format competitively in 2022. My first big tournament in Pauper was the Paupergeddon Pisa in 22, and I was playing the Mono Black Devotion. And fun fact, I was already playing one copy of Pestilence as a one-off in the list.
Very nice. So it's been a card that is very like speaks to you, a card that you really like.
Yeah, I do love the card, but I do love every black control card. So
I mean, I feel you there. Black is definitely my favorite color. I love a control deck, and so that is part of why I wanted to have this interview. Is I've been playing the deck a little bit, and it's very fun, but a little overwhelming to figure everything out. So, when did you pick
yeah.
up the like this iteration, or obviously it evolved a little bit, but this iteration of like the Food Pestilence deck?
I really started to play Food Pest around September, I'd say, September 25, following the release of the Nutrition Block, which really add a new dimension to the game strategy. Because back in the day, we didn't add any value card to sacrifice for the cat, only Lambas to shuffle it back, but it was not as good as now, I'd say.
How important do you think, since the deck kind of picked up after the nutrient block, how important do you think that card is to the deck? Because I know even just a couple months before that in Final Fantasy, we got like the instant ramen, which is 2 mana as opposed to 1, but also plays a similar role of like drawing a card and then you could just sacrifice it for your Cauldron Familiar. So do you think the deck couldn't really exist without the nutrient block, or?
You could have played it, I think, but the best thing about Nutrition Block is the fact that it costs only 1 mana, so you can curve your game. You can play turn one Nutrition Block, and you have when you have 2 mana, you have for example Fanatical Up or something like that. So you can draw a lot. You can draw a lot, and the fact Nutrition Block costs only one to bring the cat is really good when you play against aggressive strategy because even if ramen is at instant speed, I'd say to me it can't make the cut. The card is not as great as Nutrition Block.
So when you picked up the deck in September, was that were there other people playing the deck and you noticed it and decided to start playing, or did you kind of were you one of the first people to start like realizing this could be a new version of Gardens?
So maybe you already know that, but I made the garden really famous when I top at Paupergeddon in 23. And since then, I did a lot of work on the list, on the classic garden, shambling version of garden, a lot of different garden. And I was playing the shambling list to be ready to face Kuldota, Fairies back in the days. And I've seen the nutrition block, but I was not playing too much Pestilence. I was still on the classic list, I'd say. And I saw a result from Nuther Dog at the Popper Qualifier, something like that. He made 7-2. And then I've tried the deck again, and I felt in love. So for that I played only Pestilence. But when I did play the Garden deck with Chambling, etc., I also played a mono black version of I'd say it wasn't food pestilence, but it was pestilence with some food. It was a mono black version, and it was designed to beat garden already. So when nutrition block released, yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
the word.
Yep.
um, the deck improve a lot, and now it's a food garden, and to me it's the best version of garden possible right now.
Yeah, that leads me into my next question, which was obviously you have a lot of experience with both decks at this point. Um, I don't know if you noticed or knew based on coverage or anything, but at the most recent Paupergeddon, they grouped both the Food Pestilence and the traditional gardens
Yeah.
together. And I made a Paupergeddon report and I broke them out because I think that they're very different decks. Of course, they have a lot of the same cards, they have a lot of the same core, and with 12 or so different cards, but I feel like they actually play out very differently in a lot of ways. And so I'm interested in your take on that. Like, are they mostly the same deck with just a couple different cards, or is there a very different style that you need to like approach them with?
With Pestilence, you set up a sort of chessboard, harder for your opponent to anticipate because there are so many more line of play. However, you need to be in good shape and you you and have a good night's sleep. Otherwise, you can quickly make mistakes, like I did yesterday at the challenge. So yeah, I'd say the classic garden is more a pile of removal, and the pestilence deal didn't deal with the don't deal with the threat at the moment, but yeah, you need a certain setup. But when pestilence is on the board, most of the time you win. It's too late for the opponent to come back. It's most of the time it's yeah, like I said, a chess game.
My next question was going to be I actually started playing Pauper with the classic Gardens, which is the worst deck to start with, like start playing any format with, is like a control deck because you don't really know how to target the meta. But I am a little more used to that, like 14 or 15 removal spells, and this has a much leaner package of removal. Still, like 8 removal spells plus the Pestilence. But with so many fewer removal spells, how does using those removal spells look? Like, are you just trying to save them for the scariest threat that your opponent plays, and your, Cauldron Familiar is supposed to be blocking and kind of dealing with all the little stuff? Or, I don't know, how does that change based on having about half as much removal?
Yeah, once again, we are playing a defensive game. So the idea is to save our removal spells for the key card. The ones that are really problematic, because most of the time, Pestilence will sort things out for us. We just need to buy some time. So I'd say, for example, for Gutter's type, for Timberwatch, if you're facing elves or avenging, and card like that, because like Pestilence plus Campfire, you gain too much life, and you survive, and they just can't overcome that. At some point, they can't beat us.
One of the, I think, most difficult parts of the deck, at least for me, is Cauldron Familiar. Obviously, we don't have anywhere near the convoluted lines of like cat and oven as in standard past, but we still have so much food. A lot of the food when we activate gets a trigger. Cauldron Familiar just does so much stuff. Do you have any just like general tips on like how to make the most of your Cauldron Familiar, when you should sacrifice your food, when you should look to get the familiar back on board, or like just any little way to like make sure you're getting all the advantage you can out of the cat?
So the cat is there to stall at the start of the game, and then mainly to keep the pestilence card in play. An interesting way to play it, for example, is in the matchup where if your opponent play refurbished familiar, you can keep it in hand. You just play some food, the famous nutrition block, for example, and when they go, you card, you discard the cat, then you bring back. So some matchup, you want to keep it in hand. Like if you play against mid-range strategy, you want to keep it in hand. If you play against aggressive strategy, you want the cat on the field as soon as possible to block and to gain some life. So yeah, one tips I can give you is, for example, if you play against terror, don't play or bring the cat in their main phase. Wait when they are in battle. This way they can't sleep it, because sleep of the dead on the cat, if you don't have something to like fanatical or eviscerator, you can be in trouble if you bring it too fast. So yeah, the card is incredibly, it's Italian. The card is incredibly versatile depending on the matchup.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be a little bit of the glue that holds the deck together. It can gain you a little bit of life, jump block, it can trade for small creatures, and then, of course, it keeps Pestilence around. in the late game. I don't know if this is like an important thing to know, but it was something I was curious about when playing. Like, how often are you winning with Pestilence, which is the name of the deck and what it's built around, versus like the Trolls, which I realize are mostly lands, but occasionally you can cast them, or even like flipping a Tithing Blade, attacking with a cat or anything like, are you winning with Pestilence 90% of the time and then everything else is just maybe occasionally, or is it more like 50-50 on Pestilence and everything else or something like that?
I'd say out of 20 game, Pestilence is like 16 and Trolls 3 times and Blade maybe once. But most of the time I win with Pestilence, which has been well placed at the right moment. However, there are matches where the Troll really makes the difference. For example, to get back the initiative against elves, or to speed up the clock against the in the blue games. For the Tithing Blade, it's mainly here to counter the Guardian of the Guild Pact and the Bogle deck. Most of the time, it's Pestilence.
And so, since Pestilence is then the win con, I assume you, unless you're in a desperate spot, you generally want to cast it when you're able to keep it around 100%, as opposed to just kind of, you don't want to use it as a Crypt Rats, right? Just as a board wipe and then it goes away. You want to try to keep it around as best as possible, even if you have to leave them with some creatures, or like what if you don't have a way to make your own creature? Do you have to like let them keep a creature, or is it ever okay to just pop the Pestilence and kill everything and lose it and try to get another one later?
The right timing if you want to swipe the board is in the end step. After the start of the end step, this web trigger is at the start, so you can wait your end step or their end step. But in most cases, if you take, for example, against Winnie White, I tend to kill every creature except the one with three as in a toughness, like Core Skyfisher or if there is a Leonardo, I will kill it 100%.
Yeah.
But for example, Core Skyfisher, yeah, I'm fine if they only keep one Core Skyfisher and I kill everything else. I can take 2 damage per turn. With Campfire, it's like I fog every turn.
So, based on this exact list that you had at Paupergeddon, there were some card choices that I thought were interesting, and I wasn't sure if they were for the Paupergeddon meta specifically, or if they're just the list that you've been playing. Heritage Reclamation is a card that I have been thinking for a while has been a little bit underplayed, both in sideboards and main decks. Like, it's got so much utility that it feels like it should be a card that people are playing a little bit more. Was that card a bit more of a meta call, or is it just a card that does enough that you like in like the list no matter what?
So the card is designed to address several issues in game one. The idea is to deal with makeshift munition, which negates the cat, as well as campfire in a mirror match. When I say mirror match, I'm talking about a classic garden version in general, or even spellbomb. On top of that, the card is very versatile, and in the worst case scenario, you can cycle it. I really like it in the main deck. I used to sideboard it a lot back in the days, but ultimately it has more impact in the main deck. So in the sideboard, I've opted to include the Troublemaker to put pressure on artifact and enchantment to complete the Heritage main deck. The card is awesome. I must say it should be played as a one-off if you play Pestilence. It's a mandatory.
Yeah, I certainly specific examples like getting rid of makeshift munitions so that it doesn't kill your cat, and spell bombs and stuff like that makes sense. Yeah, I just love that it just does a little bit of everything. It's never a dead card because worst case, like you said, you can cycle it for 2. What is your thought on Go for the Throat? Is this just kind of your 5th copy of Cast Down? Obviously, I know a lot of people have been talking recently about Cast Down losing some power because of Leonardo and a couple other legendary creatures, but of course Cast Down is still the best removal spell you can be playing. So is there anything else you would want in the Go for the Throat slot, like another Snuff Out or a Tragic Slip or something like that, or a Defile, something that can kill those artifacts, or is this just kind of, you think, the best 5th removal spell you can be playing?
Yeah, I do think it's the best right now. I used to play 2 when Affinity was not as played as now. Outrom was not a card. Yeah, the thing is, for removal wasn't enough to deal effectively with Red Madness in particular, Gutter Snipe, which is the most commonly played deck in tournament. At first, I was running 2, as I said, but with the return of Affinity, I had to split my deck between that and Snuff Out. Both are very effective against Terror and Elves also. So, yeah, I don't want 2 dead card. So I also test 1 Go for the Throat, 1 Doomblade, but because Dimir Terror is also so making a comeback. Doomblade, don't deal with Sneaky Snacker, don't deal with Gurma Gangler.
Yep.
Against Madness, you can kill the Snacker. And yeah, I felt Snuff Out was the right sixth removal. So yeah, I'm fine with like that.
Yeah, I always like when decks do this, where you have your play set of whatever the best is, and then you just kind of have one of a bunch of different ones that have one blind spot, so that, well, if you're against an affinity matchup, Go for the Throat's bad, but at least you have your Snuff Out, or if you're against a black deck, at least you have your Go for the Throat. Tithing Blade, of course, is great against, like you said, Bogles and Terror and things like that. Are there any other removal spells that you tried out or that you wanted to fit in the deck? I mentioned Defile, which is a classic card that you play in Classic Gardens, but of course we do play couple more rot farms, and so it might be harder to get those swamps.
Yeah, the file I did test everything. You need to know.
Of course.
I've tested literally everything. Tragic Sleep main deck, Defile, more removal, less removal, Moment's Peace main deck. I've tested everything. The thing with Defile, you don't have a swamp when you want. You don't have enough swamp when we want. Most of the time, Tragic Sleep in this list is just better. Uh, Instead of Defile, it's just better in this list because you can sacrifice the cat or the plant, and minus 13, it's by far better than Defile. So yeah, Defile didn't make the cut. I did test it. You can play the one Pestilence player called Adonis 2K, I'd say, play Mono Black Pestilence. And in Mono Black Pestilence, I can see Defile, but I did test it also, but I don't like it. I don't think Defile is making the cut because yeah, there is a top deck like Red Madness, like Elf and such, but there is also Monster Throne, and Defile is just
Yep.
awful against Monster Throne. Like they bring a 7/7, and you're like, okay, I have three swamp, yeah, I
Yep.
can kill my own cat.
Perfect. Moving on to sideboarding. Of course, you have a full sideboard guide, which I'll link in the description below, so I'm not expecting you to divulge all of your secrets or anything. But just some quick tips. Generally, when I look at this list, there's a lot of things that feel like they might be like pillars of the deck that you can't really afford to cut. Of course, if you're against a burn matchup, you can cut Snuff Out. If you're against Affinity, you can cut Go for the Throat. But beyond those little easy things that you can take out, is there anything that you absolutely should never take out, or anything that you should look to cut? Like, do you start trimming like a Heaped Harvest, a Tithing Blade, and Viscerator's Insight? Is it like a little bit of everything, or what are some of your general thoughts on the sideboarding there?
So for Pestilence, there aren't any cards that are consistently removed. It depends of the matchup. Often the card in question are Pestilence, Spellbomb, the Cat, Heritage, Campfire, some removal spell, even the Ticing Blade, and Heaped Harvest. That's the only card I cut. I used to cut a Force Eviscerator back in the day when I was playing four, but since now I'm playing only three, I never cut them. So if you want an example, a free example,
Sure.
for example, let's say Red Madness. How I side against Red Madness, I side out two cat, I side out two pestilence, I side out one snuff out and one heritage. Why do I snuff out is obvious. Why I do cut the cat? It's because it's a trap in this matchup if you play against Red Madness. Because in against Red Madness, you want to gain life each turn. The more life you gain, the better you are. And sacrifice a food just to bring back the cat is not worthy because you don't really care about Voldaren Epicure. Most of the time, they attack you with the snacker and you can fog it with the campfire. And Kessig and Gutter Snipe, when they come to play, you want to deal with them. Kessig is fine if there is only one Kessig, but Gutter Snipe, you want to kill it. So just block with the cat is not enough. And I do bring four Weather the Storm, of course, and two Fairy Macabre, because Fairy Macabre can put some clock if the game state is slow, and you can deal with the an early snacker, or you can remove the looting. And most of the time, they don't expect us to do that. Heritage do the same thing as Macabre, but most of the time, 2 mana just to remove a snacker or just to remove a looting is not worthy because they bring no artifact against us. They don't bring relic most of the time, and they have no enchantment. So yeah, snuff out heritage, pestilence of course because life matter, and Cauldron Familiar because it's a trap. But I always keep at least one. Like I cut two, but I always keep one because you play Campfire. It's like you play a multiple copy because you can shuffle it back, etc.
Yeah, and I guess I mean you're cutting a lot of your win cons and the pestilence, and even somewhat too for the Cauldron Familiar. Is the matchup with Madness just the goal is to survive?
Yeah.
And once once they're out of cards, mostly obviously they keep a lot of cards in hand, but once you've kind of cleared the hump, get a big weather the storm, then you're gonna
Nah.
find something to win, or
Yeah, remember we played three troll.
yeah.
We troll are here for that. We have pestilence, but when we play the pestilence, we usually win because we have a lot of life and we can bring back the one off card. Or the same as I said against Winnie White, we can kill everything except Kessig. Because if we gain a lot of life, Kessig is not really a problem. And for just one mana, you can deal with the Epicure, you can deal with the Sniper. For two mana, you can kill the Gutter Snipe. So yeah, most of the time against Madness, I gain a lot of life. They have not a lot of card in hand, and I slam a troll. And if they kill it, they empty their hand. And if they don't, I just kill them with one troll or two troll. And with the campfire, I can shuffle back my troll. I can shuffle back even I can flip the blade even against Madness, but it's not really often because paying 5 mana against a deck which who can combo you in one turn, it's a bad idea. But sometime I did that, but yeah, never tap out against Madness. Even if you're like more than 20 life, never tap out. That's a rule.
Is that never tap out? If you have a weather the storm or something in hand, or food to sacrifice, or are you even like don't tap out because you're just bluffing? Maybe you have a weather the storm or something like that, or only if you have something to actually do with your mana.
Yeah, bluffing is an important part against Red Madness because it can give you some turn. And also, like per example, in many situations, I have one road farm untapped, and I have two campfire in play. At the end of their turn, I won't use the campfire because if I do so, I will be tap out, and so I just take my turn. This way, I have all my mana available. Then I start with, for example, gaining life with campfire. But if they do something, I have all my mana to answer. So even if you miss some life gain at the end of their turn, you really want to have the more answer as possible. It can be cast down, it can be a fanatical eviscerator in response to dig into Macap, to dig into Weather the Storm, etc. There is a lot of bluff in this match. Sometimes it's too slow, but yes, so sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it doesn't work, but I'd say compared to the classic Garden, Red Madness is a favorable matchup.
Just to get a little bit more details on that, do you think this is Madness is a better matchup for us than it is for Classic Gardens, but it's still kind of a weak matchup, or is it like you actually think we are favored as Pestilence against Madness?
We are favored, yeah. Not like it's not 70-30, but it's yeah, it's at least I'd say it's 60-40 for us. Because even on the game one, if we manage to play multiple campfire and we crack the food to gain 3 life and we deal with the Gutter Snipe, because Gutter Snipe needs 3 mana to come, and Madness play only 18 lands. So sometimes they don't have the 3 mana, and most of the time they don't want to play the Gutter Snipe on turn 3 because they're tap out and we can just kill it and they do nothing. So they will wait. And because they will wait, if we gain a lot of life before the Gutter Snipe comes, we are pretty safe with the removal plus the food plus etc. And post board it's even better. So yeah, I'd say it's like from my experience, it's a good matchup, but it's still Red Madness. So with Gutter Snipe, it doesn't mean you will always win. Sometimes they go like Lava Dart, Lava Dart, Fire Blast, Fire Blast, GG, and you can do much. But yeah, I'd say by far it's a better matchup like than a Classic Garden. It's awful for Classic Garden.
Yeah, that was actually something that I wanted to talk about as a whole. What matchups do you think that we are, just in general, like a couple matchups that we're more favored against? Because you said that at the beginning, this is the best version of Gardens you can be playing. So, what are the exact reasons for that? Do we have better matchups against a lot of the top decks right now, or are we just kind of better against everything as a whole? Like, what are the reasons that this is the deck to be playing over the classic version?
So as I said, against burn strategy, the deck is better by far because we can gain life and we can make value. Classic Garden, sorry, need to do one of them, but not both. They struggle to do both because the timing. They need to play high cards, they need to sacrifice to draw, they need to develop their strategy or to gain life. They don't do that. They don't do both. When you play Pestilence, playing food help your strategy. So you will ramp with Harvest. You can play the cat, etc. So it improved the burn matchup, even the rally, which is still a difficult matchup, but we play Moment's Peace for that. And if you are playing against, for example, John Wildfire. John Wildfire used to be a really good matchup for Classic Garden. Back in the day, John Wildfire start to play Jixian Infiltrator, which is a difficult card to handle with the Garden because they file sometimes it's not enough. You have cast down, yeah, but snuff out, spinning darkness, card like that doesn't work. And Ticing Blade is awful in this matchup. So if they have a big Jixian, you're like, okay, I need to kill Chrysalis, I need to kill the Jixian, but I can do both. So John start to be difficult. Burn strategy were played much more. There is a lot of burn strategy. So I choose Pestilence because it's good versus burn and it's good versus mid-range deck. Even against Affinity, you have Campfire, you have a lot of life gain. You can go in the grind game and you can outplay them like by far, which is not really easy to do with Classic Garden except if you play the emblem. But I do think the emblem are bad in Garden now because the format is too fast.
Do you think that the emblems, the initiative, and the monarch are not as good in the format because it's faster, because it's too hard to hold on to them because your opponent has so many creatures to attack you with quickly, or just because they're expensive to cast?
Yeah, if you are talking about the classic garden, like if you take the noob list, so the player noob, sometimes he play no emblem at all. But when he play emblem, he often play Thorn of the Black Rose instead of Avenging. But recently he did play Avenging. But Thorn of the Black Rose it is interesting if you play Campfire because on Magic Online, not in real life, but on Magic Online, you can trap your opponent because if they take the Monarch with Campfire, you can shuffle back your library and they can just deck out and time out and etc. But if you take the Avenging, like against burn strategy, the card is not really good. If you take against Affinity, of course the card is good, but they have Refurbish Familiar and now they have Outram. So they have two flyers. So they have flyer most of the time. So it's really hard for Garden to, I won't say it's hard to keep the emblem, but it's hard for them to retake it. If they lost it, it's almost over. And that's why if you play the classic garden version, you can play Torn because, as I said, you can in grindy matchup you can deck them out. So with Campfire, it's fine. But if you lose the initiative, it's a different thing because initiative will put the skeleton, will put the top 10, will make some value, etc. So yeah, it's even like it's harder to take it back. That's why I do think you don't want to play them, and because we don't want to play them, that's why we want to play Pestilence because it doesn't really care about the emblem. If your opponent play Torn, it's fine. If they play Avenging, it's fine. The only case you really care about Avenging it is if they play Elves because they can Avenging on turn three, even in Gruul ramp too. They can play Avenging on turn three, which is really bad for us because, as I said previously, we have few removal to deal with the key card. So if they go like I put 1 billion creature and you don't have time to set up your pestilence, you will lose most of the time. But if you play against a classic garden, or against Wildfire or against deck like that, and they bring the emblem, I'd say in most cases you don't really care because you will have the late game even if they have the emblem.
Going back to sideboarding a little bit, you mentioned when I asked about what do you cut that you can kind of cut anything. So this might already answer my question a little bit, but I've looked at it a little bit, and Campfire seems in a lot of ways very integral to the deck. A lot of examples that you're talking about. It's well, you have Campfire, you're gaining life and things like that. So is Campfire just good against burn decks and things like that, and the aggressive decks, or is it a card that you kind of want to keep in for the majority of matchups because it prevents you from decking out, and also just gaining life is good because you need to have a higher life total than your opponent for Pestilence to work. So like when are you looking to take this out of your deck, or are you almost always keeping it in?
So I always keep at least one to cycle my card or earn a few life points if the game goes on for a while. The only time I removed them all was against Ruby Storm because they don't add anything when time is short, I'd say. But yeah, at least I always try to keep one campfire because, like you said, if you have Pestilence plus campfire, you can just gain a lot of turn because you can swipe in Pauper. There is a lot of small creature, so with Pestilence plus campfire, you can swipe. I'd say 75% of the creature in the format. So you gain some life and you take your time. I do cut them when like on Magic Online, for example. If I'm ahead at the timer, I will cut them because I will not deck out. So I can cut them and bring some Weather the Storm or some Troublemaker or some other answer. If I play against aggressive strategy, like for example Mono Black Sacrifice, I think you like this one. Uh,
Indeed.
Sometimes I can cut some campfire too because if I am on the draw, for example, it won't answer the big creature. I'd rather have Tragic Sleep over the campfire, for example. So it depends if I am on the draw, if I am not, if they play some burn spell or not. If they play some burn spell, I will keep the campfire. If they play big creature like Terror, Mono Blue Terror, I do cut two campfire because it will slow the Delver. But if they go like a double Serpent, Campfire will not won't save me. So yeah, it depends of the matchup, but in most cases, I keep at least one.
And you mentioned when playing against Ruby Storm, you cut all of them. Of course, when you made top eight in Paupergeddon, you played against Ruby Storm in the top eight. I know that generally Gardens, any form of Gardens, one of their main weaknesses is the spells matchups, spell-based combo specifically. High Tide for a while when that was legal was a difficult one, and now Ruby Storm is gaining some popularity. How difficult are those matchups? How much interaction are we able to really how much are we able to do against those matchups, and like what are some general tips to beat those that are traditionally pretty difficult?
It depends if you are on Magic Online or if you are in real life, because on Magic Online, combo deck cost a lot of time for the player. So you can just time them out. You can put some effect on the stack to slow them down. But I consider that like it's anti-play, it's bad manner. So I try to not doing that. So if we are talking about the real life, like if you are talking about the Ruby Storm, it's the matchup is not as hard as it seems, but you really need to interact with their familiar as soon as you can, and you need to set up the Pestilence because in this match I tried to play Pestilence, but I couldn't because I didn't add the land. I don't know if you watched the match, but I didn't add the land, so I was stuck on three land if I remember well, and I did lost because of that. But yeah, in general, I'd say you just need to ramp like Iped Harvest is really good, and you need to play a troll. You need to put some pressure if you are playing against Altartron, for example. A good strategy can be if you have the time to slam the troll and play Pestilence, then you can handle the golem because there are only three and you can keep your troll in play. And if you do that, then when you have the campfire, it's almost GG if they don't bring the Weather of the Storm because in most cases, They will cut the Weather the Storms they do play main deck for some temporal intervention or card like that to prevent the Fairy Macabre, to prevent the Heritage, to prevent the Spellbomb, to prevent card like that. So if you play Pestilence plus Campfire, at some point they have less life than you, and with the troll, you are ahead. They can't play, they can't win anymore. So yeah, there is some tips I'd say, but it's really difficult. It's really tricky, and you need a bit of luck, and they need to not be so lucky.
Moving to just some general like how to play the deck and things like that. I actually, in preparation for this, I've been wanting to put the deck together for a little while in paper, and so I just was able to do that and play it at my local event on Friday. And I like I said, I have some experience with Golgari Gardens. I played this deck a little bit online, but I still found myself having some difficulties with like, what am I looking for in my opening hand, for example? Usually, if you have a couple of lands and some card draw, it seems like that's decent enough. But one of the issues I ran into was with much less removal than Classic Gardens. If I was against a red opponent or something and they played a Gutter Snipe pretty quickly, I didn't necessarily have a way to kill it right away. So should I always try to have, at least one removal spell in your opening hand? Like, what generally are you looking for a good, keepable to good hand?
So, generally speaking, in the opening end, you want something to get established. So, very often, it's either Icor, Lambast, Nutrition, Kalni with the card drawing spell, and ideally, at least two land. The early game is all about setting up and survival, as we have fewer removal spell. And in the mid to late game, we play Pestilence when they run out of resources and take control of the game. That's a very brief summary. The strength of the deck is that the longer the game goes on, the stronger our position becomes, even if we are taking a beating for almost the entire game. That's the general tips. If it's for the Red Madness, I recommend to mulligan until you have a removal, because you will have life gain because you play like Orlambas, two Harvest, and for nutrition. So you play 10 food plus 3 campfire. So you should be able to gain some life, but you really need to handle the gunfire, not the gunfire, the gutter snipe, sorry. Because if it stay, you just lose. So yeah, I'd say if you play against red deck, you need at least 2 land. If you can removal and some like turn one campfire or turn one Neil spellbomb is really really good against them. It depends if you're on the play or on the draw. If you're on the draw and you have both campfire and spellbomb, play spellbomb first, because you can gain life on the first turn, and if they go turn two, grab the prize or robbery or card like that, or looting, you can spellbomb the snacker, you can spellbomb when you want. And also it's small tips. They will play around it, so you can save some time because they don't want to lose their resources, because Madness is a grindy aggro deck. I don't know if it's an aggro, if it's a control, if it's a combo. I'd say it's maybe 33% of each, but against us, it's probably an aggro slash combo deck. And yeah, it's a grindy deck, so Spellbomb is really good against them.
So those are some good ways to start your game off well. When we get to the late game and we have 8 mana, 7 cards in hand, I think even me, a veteran player, had some decision paralysis where I have so many things to do, it's difficult to decide, should I just start casting food? Should I keep drawing cards because maybe I'm still looking for something? Like, what are some ways to play better but also faster? Because of course this is a very slow deck. It's easy to go to time on MTGO or even draw in person. So what are some ways to play faster and make your decisions faster on like how to play out those later longer turns?
So yeah, actually everything has been planned from the start, or almost. So decisions should be in line with the original plan. I'd say there are two distinct scenarios. The first is on Magic Online, where the timer is less important in the sense that you can draw like in real life. You just have to learn to play quickly on the interface, like Kalkais do, for example. But playing Troll definitely helps finish game faster. For sure. As for real life, the second scenario, I'd say you need to take your time so as not to mess up, because the game struggle to even things out quickly unless you play very, very fast, as I do. What's tricky with Pestilence is that even as a player, you sometimes find yourself thinking, how am I going to get out of this? You have to work out the possible outcomes properly, and usually it works out. But it requires, I don't know, thinking very quickly. which is why I said earlier that sleep is essential. So yeah, you need to play fast. The first turn you need to play fast. You need to have the pattern. And when you play Pestilence, it's like a chessboard game. So because you know what you want to do in like 4 5 turn, usually when you are here, you know how to end the game. But you need to do it fast because the slightly mistake you can make, you can just lose the full match. On Magic Online, not as much because you have the timer. So if you play fast, you can still come back. But in real life, if you lose the game one because you did a mistake, you played maybe too fast or like a common mistake, for example. I think the common mistake is failing to anticipate the next few turn. As I said, it's a game of chess with fairly lengthy setup. So you always need to be one step ahead of your opponent, which is tricky on Magic Online because of the individual clock. You shouldn't play Food Garden the same way you play Classic Garden, as it reacts differently. Doing so could cost you the game.
What are some other common mistakes that a lot of players make that would make it easier to not like throw their first games and things like that? What are some obvious things that people should try to avoid, I suppose?
It's really important to, when you are on the blind, if you don't know what your opponent is playing, it depends if you're on the play or on the draw. You need to keep, I'd say, a good hand, but maybe not the best, but a good hand in most scenario. And for example, you don't want to go like turn one cat. If you are in the blind, you never go turn one cat because if they have a removal, if they play a blast or they play something and they go like I play a spellbomb or I play maybe not spellbomb on turn one, but like if they go turn one artifact land, you should know you are against Affinity, against Jund, against maybe Hours of Blade, etc. And you need to play like if you need to play like you know the deck already. You really need to guess the opponent deck very quick to adapt your strategy to their deck. That's why, except against elves except against terror, except against maybe red madness, except against this three deck. But I do really like to be second. So most of the time it's funny because I I often lost the toss. Like my opponent at the Geddon roll two dice. He made something like three, and he was like, "Okay, you're going to start," and I made double one. So, so yeah, I was second, and yeah, I'd say it's better to be second the first game. This way, you can learn the opponent deck and you can adapt your strategy. I don't know if it's answer to your question really good, but
No,
sorry.
I mean that's very interesting. Is it so good to be on the draw that you would choose to be on the draw if you win the die roll, or is it just a little bit of a benefit if you do go second?
If you are on blind, I do like to be second for many reasons. As I said, you will learn the opponent deck, and they don't. I mean, except if it's me, because people know I'm always playing Garden. But in blind, your opponent don't know what you are playing. You will know what they are playing, and also very important, if you mulligan, you will still have more card and the deck draw a lot and gain a lot of life. So even if your opponent go like turn one Epicure or thing like that, they will wait. Like I said previously, for example, Red Madness will wait to slam the gutter snipe. They won't do it in turn three. So the first turn is not that important. Yeah, you are behind because they start, but in blind you have one more card. You can adapt your strategy, and if they are not an aggro strategy, it's really important. If they are playing mid-range strategy, you really like to be second because you have more card and the game will goes long and the card matter more than the pressure, I'd say. Like if you are playing a garden mirror, in mirror, you never want to start. It's a common mistake. You were talking about common mistake. In mirror, you never want to be first. Also, if you play a classic garden, I never bring the duress because it's a value war. And if both of us are in top deck, if you draw a duress and the board is already resolved, I'd say, it's just a time walk. You're like, okay, I drew duress, you can go. So I don't bring this card in this kind of matchup. And yeah, I'm liking to be second when I play against a grindy deck. But yeah, it depends. It can be finishing.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I think that is the majority of the questions that I had prepared. Are there any other general things about the deck or just anything that you wanted to add that you think would be helpful for people to know about it?
If I can talk about my life shortly, I started to play deck because my cat was not good at all. I don't know how to say that, but it's like he was about to die.
Mm-hmm.
And as a garden lover, I wanted to play a deck with the to still play garden, but I wanted to play a deck. I can say this is my cat. So I started to play the deck with my cat dying in mind, and thanks to God or thanks to I don't know, now he is fine. But yeah, I did start to play the deck because of him, and I'm really happy he's fine now. And also, no, fun thing about the Geddon, the designer, the not the creator, the drawer of the Caldron Familiar was at the Geddon, so he signed my Caldron Familiar. So yeah, I was really happy about that because to me this card is my cat, my real cat. So yeah, it's a really cool story for me.
That is awesome. I'm very glad that your cat's okay. And yeah, how awesome to have that story where now you have one of what I would argue one of the best decks in the format. I think it's certainly undervalued, and a lot of people are now obviously seeing that with the Paupergeddon run doing so well. So really glad that you're able to now play your cat in your deck with signed copies. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm glad to the on Magic Online, a lot of players are starting to play the Pestilence.
Yeah, it's definitely gaining some popularity. I guess on that real quick, what does the mirror match look like a lot? One of the things that I've been a little bit worried about is picking up the deck is that I've been to a couple bigger tournaments recently playing Black Sack, as you mentioned earlier, and I lost in the top 8 both times to Food Pestilence. And so now I'm considering playing Food Pestilence at those same events, but I fear playing against an opponent who knows much more than me about the matchup and having a very slow, grindy mirror match. So what are some tips for how to win the mirror?
In mirror match, life matter a lot. You don't really care about the cat, the opponent cat, because one damage per like they draw the sacrifice, they bring it back. You don't really care. The thing is, it's about the I'd say about the deck out. You have two way to win. It's rather if you deck them out. So you need to keep your spellbomb, and that's also why Heritage is so good in the main deck because it can destroy the opponent spellbomb, it can destroy the opponent campfire, and then you go Bojuka Bog and you just win because if the game goes long, most of the time the mirror match is only 1-0. There is not a full BO3. It's
Yep.
most of the time it's just a 1-0. But yes, that's also why I play the Heritage in the main deck. And Pestilence, I'd say a tips I can give you if you play a mirror match, because I did play a lot of mirror match on Magic Online. A funny thing is if we both have Pestilence and we both have a cat, or one of us have a cat, you need to activate the Pestilence when it's your turn, not the opponent turn. Why? Because if you do that, let's say you have some food, you have a cat, and there is a pestilence in both sides. If you activate it in your turn, you swipe the board, right? You let your cat in the graveyard. Because the trigger of pestilence will happen, you are the first player, they are the second player. So yours ability will come first in the stack, so we'll resolve at the end. So we first resolve their ability. They lost the Pestilence. Then we bring our cat and we keep our Pestilence.
Yeah, that seems really strong. Obviously, if they try to bring their cat back, then you can just kill it again with your Pestilence before their Pestilence has not sacrificed. So if you have enough mana, you can just make sure it dies over and over and over. Their Pestilence goes away, and then you bring your cat back.
Yes.
Yeah, that seems like a really good way to win that scenario there.
Yeah. So yeah, you just save your removal for the troll. You flip the blade if you can. You use campfire if you can, and just one pestilence is enough to win. You don't need all of them. So well, if you let's say you win one or there is a tie, both players are very fast. You usually cut two cats in mirror match. I do cut two cats. I cut the snuff out because it's awful. I cut two pestilence too. And like it's like what 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 5 cards. I do cut the go for the throat too. I do cut the go for the throat because 4 removal are enough for the troll. And I bring a troublemaker. I bring two troublemaker, two macabre, and two weather the storm. I don't bring 4 weather the storm because it can be a dead card, and if they are already winning, weather the storm won't help you to win. And macabre, really important thing about macabre, it's not you can remove the opponent's cat in the graveyard, but in most cases it's not for that. It's to remove the other campfire copy. If they have the campfire in their graveyard, you can remove them if they try to shuffle. Because let's say you go heritage on the campfire, they go, I sacrifice it to draw 2 cards. Then later they go with campfire and try to shuffle back the campfire. With macabre, you can exile the campfire. And if you do that, in most cases, you just win. So yeah, like I said previously, it's a chessboard game.
Yeah, this definitely, more than any other matchup, seems like it would be very chess-like. Lots of little incremental value, lots of thinking, what am I going to do, or what are they going to do 7 turns from now?
Yeah.
Seems like a tough one for sure. I mean, those are definitely some helpful tips that I'll have to keep in mind if I end up playing against the mirror at some point.
And if you play on Magic Online, the timer matter a lot.
Yes, yeah, just certainly playing as fast as you can, while still playing correctly, obviously, would certainly help there. Okay, well, I think that is all the questions that I have. Thank you so much for joining me. Thanks for giving us a ton of helpful insight into the deck. It's definitely a complicated one. Obviously, there's a lot more to learn. You have a fantastic sideboard guide that I'll link in the description, but is there anything else that you want to shout out or plug that you have been working on or anything like that?
Thanks to you first. Thanks to you. Thanks to my teammate, who helps me to improve myself for the Geddon. Thanks to my wife. I played against my wife the previous day of the Geddon. I did lots, and I was like, do I play this list? Do I play this list? And I changed my list the day before, and it helps me. So yeah, really thanks to her. And yeah, thanks to the Pestilence community too, the Discord Pestilence community. All of them are really nice people. Thanks to everyone who's watching this video. It was a pleasure to talk with you. And yeah, I'm still very sorry for my awful accent and my awful English, but as a French, it's a it's a story. French are bad in English.
I think your English is totally fine. I found that just about anybody who learned English as a second language says their English is terrible, and it's absolutely not. And I know a lot of people who have English as their first language haven't even learned a second language like me. So you're already way ahead of all of us. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on here. Of course, congratulations for the great run at Paupergeddon. And I look forward to seeing what you're able to do in the future. All right, take care. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed that interview. Thanks to my supporters that make it possible for me to continue putting out videos every single day, like Howard Granger, JDMPX, Halcaz, Cody Cowell, Sty, Benedict, and DJ Vinyl. I really appreciate the support, and I'll see you all next time.